Figure I'll be in the delegate every 10 minutes.
Roll call for the City Council meeting of Wednesday, November 5th, 2014 at 9 a.m. Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Rancunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski. All please rise for a moment of silent meditation and pledge of allegiance.
Mr. President, I ask that we remember those in our community that are less fortunate than we are in any and every way. We ask that we remember in this time of prayer and meditation all of our youth in our community, and we pray that that we have community solutions for many of the community problems that are related to our young people and to all of our members of our community in general. And finally, we ask our God and Creator to give us the wisdom to be able to make the best decisions to serve the citizens of the city of Erie.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes for the meeting of Wednesday, October 15th. Bills for payment on October 17th, 24th, and 31st. Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Rancunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon.
Do we have any requests for repository sales? Do we have any requests for repository sales? Any requests for repository sales? Hearing none, citizens to be heard. Mr. Randy Barnes.
Council, I want to let you know that I'm using it on my phone because we have been unable to get a good timer, so we give that a try.
Okay. Does it beep, bro?
Yeah.
Morning, Council President, Council, Mayor, staff, administration, guests, those with us electronically. Yesterday was a very important day, and it's a coincidence that occurs the same month as probably even as important day, a Veterans Day and Election Day being in the same month. Yesterday on Election Day, if you listen to candidates after the election, the incumbents that won are always real proud of their voting record. There's nothing they'd rather do, politicians would like to do, than talk about their voting record because that's what they run on. And the incumbents that win say, hey, the people like my voting record, they like what I do, and that's why I won. You know, I've been wrong on a lot of things in my life. I've probably been wrong more times than I've been right. But this freedom of speech and open government is something I'm not wrong about. And no one can convince me that I am. So I want to read from the official record the minutes from the council meeting, July. By Mr. Winarski, seconded by Mr. Witherspoon, resolved, etc., that James Clem be hereby retained as a consultant to the Erie City Council and the City of Erie as an archivist for a 2-year period on a retainer fee of $1,000 a month. Authorize the proper city officials to execute the necessary documents, on and on and on. July 16, 2014, City Council adopts by yeas, Council Member Rancunso, Jones, Winarski, and Witherspoon. I think it's important that we talk about this again because I got to thinking about all the times I've been wrong. And I've probably been wrong a lot of times, disagreed with some of the things the administration, the mayor wanted to do. But this was one time that I agreed with the mayor because the mayor said, we can't afford to spend another $12,000 on a position that wasn't there last year because we had increased garbage fees to balance the budget this year. So why are we spending $12,000 on an additional position that we didn't have last year? From the official minutes of that July 16th by Mr. Winarski, seconded by Mr. Witherspoon, resolved. I think you guys have to be proud of that vote that day, those 4 people. And I hope for the next 22 months, when I come down here twice a month, we talk about this. And at the end, when you have your 5 minutes, you defend that vote. Because I'm willing to have any one of you four tell me I'm wrong. The mayor was wrong, and those other 3 city council people were wrong. Without that $12,000 position, this city would be in bankruptcy. Those records have to be archived. You tell me that to my face, or tell me at the end of your 5 minutes, that without those records being archived, this city would be in the red. Come on. How often have the 7 of you council people wanted to reference an ordinance from 1952? And when you were you able to get it? Will the $12,000 make you get that ordinance from 1952 just a little bit faster? Will it improve our government? Will it improve our safety on our streets? We didn't have any money to give the jobs program. Oh, we did have money to give to a jobs program for old white guys. And I hope I'm next on that list of old white guys that gets jobs money. Because I've been looking at my pension, and I'm not sure I can survive on my pension. So when I become a retired old white guy, I'm already old and white, but retired, I can come down to city council and say, you know what? I can help you copy some records. I can make some PDF files. I'm not looking for much, maybe 20, 25 bucks an hour. Something to help me pay my parking fee when I park outside here, and just a little walking around money. Because that jobs program that was a success, they don't need any of the city money, because you guys provide lifeguards, and I know you do all those things. But the jobs program actually did some training, train these people for their future job application things. So I love this freedom of speech, and that's what Veterans Day is about. That's what Election Day is about. No coincidence that they're in the same month. And then another very important holiday that we shall all respect is Thanksgiving Day, and we should be thankful for all we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Are there any other citizens to be heard? Please give us your name and address.
My name is Wagner, and I live at 42nd and State. There was a bio from Tom Kennedy, and one of the things it started off with, it said, law of life. You get what you give. Contribute before you receive. And you people should start walking to those words. Our city is in serious decline. $700,000 worth of property on West 38th taken off the tax rolls. A business complex turned into a house of worship. 300 Erie insurance jobs moved to 26 in Asbury to an empty Walmart. Good for Mill Creek, bad for the city. 117,000 Verizon jobs lost. The closing of a call center in the 100 block of West 9th Street. Bradley's at West 8th and Walnut, soon to close. That store has been there for as long as I've been alive. I walked to that store when I was a child with my grandmother. Sanders at West 6th and Bayfront, out of business. What are you people doing? A couple lease developments with something that's even closer to me. The area of town that I live in is graced with beautiful, well-maintained homes. Pride of ownership is evident at every turn. But yet in a 3-square block area, 7 move-in ready homes are for sale. Not flips, move-in ready homes. But yet they sit there on the market. Where are the people with the income and the desire to live in Erie? They don't exist. Crime, taxes, and a failure of leadership are taking people to the outskirts of the city. Not to mention, where are the owners of the homes that are for sale relocating to? I see on your agenda that the McBride Viaduct will be raised. Perhaps that structure has outlived its usefulness. But so have 2 large industrial buildings that sit and welcome people to our city that travel on the Bayfront Highway. Get creative. Use tax incentives that are available. Tear those buildings down and start over. 12th and Bayfront isn't indicative of what the city has to offer, but it stands there as a bad first impression. Those are hard to change. A few years ago, you took from the taxpayers accessibility to this body. 4 meetings down to 2 meetings a month. I might agree that the mechanics of running this city can be done by meeting twice a month. But the reality is, those 2 meetings that council ran from could have been used to work on issues even more important than fiscal. Those would be quality of life issues facing every resident. Crime, education, and jobs still fall under your oversight, yet you ignore the core problems concerning our city. You are comfortable letting neighborhood watch groups handle the challenges facing the citizenry. You're wrong. Do your jobs, get off your hands. This body has spent 10 months of this year trying to squash citizens to be heard, moving them to the back of the agenda. Then a dictate comes from your president that in order to speak, you have to have property in the city. And that individuality of council from now on doesn't exist. You are one. And if a question about an agenda item arises, you act as one. And if a question about an agenda item rises, even though it's sponsored and seconded by an individual, it will be considered as a group goal instead of asking the individuals that brought it forward for a debate. Civil disobedience isn't speaking out as a citizen to be heard. It's debate. It's questioning. It's where creative ideas can be generated. We live in Erie County. The county will rise and fall on how our city does. And comments and concerns generated at this podium, no matter who states them, are important. If council thinks that the only good suggestions that they should consider come from property owners in the boundaries of the city, we will certainly continue to fail. Please stand up to backwards thinking of some of your colleagues. Let freedom ring and protect our rights to freedom of speech. And one other comment I had to make. I was on the city website and I was looking at something on zoning, and I went to your website. And I don't expect an answer, but where in the heck are your email addresses? They're not there. If you want to remove yourself from the public even further, keep doing what you're doing. But I hope when someone runs for office that you use that plank in your platform, that you're going to ignore the citizens of Erie. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner.
I can find your email addresses. I've seen it. Louis Press, I live at 617 West 4th Street. I spoke at council last year about this time regarding community access funding. I'm here to give you an update. A year later, I have copies. So I'll be brief. Have this. Last year, as you know, our budget was cut by more than half. We had to hit the ground running. We went into emergency mode. We had emergency meetings. We had a very tumultuous year. But we have done what council asked us to do last year. We have cut, through staff and overhead costs, $53,000. We have started new programs where we're selling underwriting and production services and made another $17,000 for a total of $70,000 we made up in lost revenue. We are applying for grants, forming partnerships, and remaining true to our mission to serve this community as a community asset. We were at Nonprofit Day. We are everywhere. We're here to help the city of Erie and the citizens of Erie. I would ask that you continue our funding this year for 2015 at $75,000 while we continue to reinvent ourselves, and hopefully I can come before you next year and say, you know what, keep it, we got this. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good morning, Council. Adam Trott, 531 West 6th Street, and also have my office at 10th and State. I'm here to just address a couple elements about the McBride Viaduct final study that was issued and that you're going to vote to approve this morning. One of my biggest concerns is how money is changing from what was put out into the public narrative versus what we're seeing at the final day. And for example, 1.2 million was the amount that was prophesized forever about how much it would be to remove the viaduct. Geez, for 1.2 million, we get rid of this liability and most of the money's paid for. Well, when you look into their study, What the study actually says is it's 1.73 million. They've adjusted that number just in time for publication, and we've had very little time to deliberate on it. At the same time, it should be recognized that the sidewalk that they're speculating to put on the south side of 12th Street to connect the Bayfront Connector Bridge back to East Avenue, they say is $427 million. Now, the way the numbers are moving all over the place, who knows what it'll be, but that means that the public narrative of 1.2 million is in reality, at this stage of the game, 2.155 million to get rid of the viaduct, because you don't need that 12th Street sidewalk if you're going to keep the viaduct. So I think it's very deceiving to put one narrative out for public deliberation, and then at the day of the voting or at the day when you issue the public study and hurry up and try and pass it through council, the number's almost double. That's huge. That's an incredible difference of what you're presenting to the public versus what you're voting on. The other thing that your agenda, I will commend you for being very candid in your agenda, that the cost of the study is said to be $742,000, the reimbursement is $722,000, and then at the bottom there's this little item, Exhibit AAA, is increased from $722,000 to $1.218 million. Now, that's never been said anywhere that I know of until it's in the agenda this morning when you're going to vote on it. That's an incredible deception to the public about what the reality and costs are for this project. Now, Lisa Austin and I crafted a letter over the weekend. We sent it to you and the Times News requesting that if, we understand the freight train's at full speed and it's kind of crazy to try and put this off right now. You need to get the money back that you have at risk for the study. I understand that. But what I'd like to propose is that you allow another train to go alongside this train that allows windows to stay open for things to change on this activity, because really we're just asking, put the couple of bid alternates in. They've already acknowledged that their 1.2 million is at least 40% shy of the actual cost. The new number they give is over 40% of an increase. So we're saying, you don't know what it's going to come in at. What if it comes in at 2.2 million? Is the money going to fall from heaven, or does it kill the demolition project? Well, I'm proposing to keep the city's liability minimized, have alternates, remove just the elevated spans, which is where most of the rain of spalling concrete is coming from. Put that as a bid alternate, and then if bids are high and you have that deduct to choose to get back in budget, you have it. Another thing I'd love to save would be the at-grade entrances at either end. That would even further reduce the final demolition bid that you sign a contract for. These are prudent fiscal ways to put mechanisms in, so if the story changes again from the way it's changed here at the 11th and a half hour, that the city has fallback positions to keep moving forward to remove a liability that they're exposed to. I think it only makes sense. And I'll tell you, if I could have the piers and footers and we could get some lighting on that, and then we can get a P3 going and we can raise money to put new decks that are designed for bike and pedestrian only, we can eventually heal that scar that you guys are ready to approve to make happen. And I completely disagree with the study's suggestion that connectivity, pedestrian and bicycle connectivity in that area is satisfied. It is not. This morning I drove by there, 8 kids on the viaduct, 0 on the Bayfront Parkway. And the kids enjoy, they can walk 4 and 5 shoulder to shoulder and talk. The viaduct, you have to single file like ants. So that's what I propose for your consideration, and thanks for giving me a few minutes.
Thank you very much. Are there any other citizens to be heard?
Morning, Council.
Morning.
My name is McDonald. My property is 19th and Reed. I guess I'm a citizen. I've been coming down here long enough. I should be one by now. Y'all don't seem to listen to what we have to say. I don't really see where there's any good in us coming down, but I'm coming anyway because I'm a taxpayer. Y'all might not want to hear what I have to say, and I could care less, because y'all don't care nothing about the citizens, the taxpayers. It's going to be an eyesore out there when that bridge is gone. And that bridge wasn't just sitting up there. It was used. It's going to be an inconvenient. You done spent enough money to have built another bridge. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. But that wasn't what I'd come to talk to you about this morning. I asked you a while ago, I don't know how many years it is, I guess Bag was here then, about when you sign your contracts with these contractors, you should put some kind of English in there that they must hire the so-called minorities. The way you're bringing these foreigners in here, you all gonna be the minorities, because you're bringing them in. I don't know why. People's been waiting to get in this country for years, and here you wake up in the morning, there's some foreigners coming in. You never seen them, and I never seen a town this small with so many foreigners. Big cities, I see it. I don't understand. And you're giving them our money. Big businesses to non-profits. They're in bed together to keep wages down. And if you can't see that, I don't know. You need to go back where you come from. It's plain as a nose on your face. The people's living, been here, the foundation of the town, can't find no jobs. We paid to send jobs overseas when the Bushes was in. Paying, we were digging a hole with our own money. The politicians, they should be lined up and shot the way they have gutted this country. It's a shame. But I'm gonna tell you something. There's a man up there, and he's sitting high looking low. He will take care of everything in his time. You're gonna look around, this loved one's gonna be gone. This one got cancer, this one got Ebola or something. God will curse you. I'm not talking directly to y'all, because if the shoe fit, wear it. If the shoe fit, wear it. We're supposed to love. Most of you hate. Look at the way they do the president. God will take care of that. The Republicans have been kicking him in his butt ever since he's been in. It's a shame. Shame on them. God will take care of that. You don't think he will? I promise you he will. Because that book we call the Bible, it said we will. We're supposed to lift our leaders up. How can you lift somebody up kicking you in your butt? It's a hard thing to do. I want you to think about that. Hiring minorities. I go around to these jobs and I see nothing but white faces. Some of them used to be white. They've been out there working so long, they're almost dark as me. But then I get this, they don't want to work. How in the hell did y'all get where you are? If it wasn't for us working all those years for nothing, you think you'd have what you got? You wouldn't. You look back. You know history. Back down the road, we couldn't even go to school. I think we came a long ways. But there are those that are indoctrinated by that white man. Don't trust this one and don't trust that one. And that seemed to be a mindset. That's too bad. Since Dr. King was killed, we have regressed. We haven't moved forward. We should have been moving forward. Look at it. We got 2 of us up there on the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mack.
Yeah, just a moment.
No, just a moment, Mr. Mack. That's the bell.
Okay. Y'all don't want to hear me anyway. But
Yeah, we do.
No, you don't.
Yeah, but 5 minutes, Mr. Mack.
You should give us them 5 you
No,
from us.
no, Mr. Mack.
I said you should give me those 5, give us them 5, stack them on these and a little 5 here, and that would be showing you a little bit of honesty.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You know I'm telling you the truth.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
My name is Michael X. Anderson. I reside at 1917 Camphausen. Greeting words of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you, sir. Today we are launching a program that's entitled Black History Beyond February program. It's going to be done at Out of East High School with the idea of teaching black history and culture to those who want to learn it from a standpoint as something being counteracting towards street culture. Today, street culture is glorified through music, through television, through media print, and it affects all walks of life. It doesn't matter where you're at. Street culture right now is just devastating, not just our region, but this whole world. I feel the social solution is history and culture. Now, every year we have a German festival, Irish festival, Polish festival, Italian festival, and those are great celebrations. You see people who are of that ethnic group embrace, hug, love, dance, the whole nine. But unfortunately, on a continuum, when it comes to blacks, particularly in this area, right, what do we see or what do we hear? Negatives. And for those who know their history and culture, they know the glory of us as a people, and that's our job today to help try and instill it for those who want to learn it. So what we're actually going to be doing twice a month at East High School as a launching point, because my whole thing is to take this into Mill Creek, is to take this in the Northeast, to take this in all parts of our county and region, because everyone can benefit from black history and culture because it is American history. You cannot divide the two. And the whole thing is that when properly told, right, everyone can feel good about themselves as far as themselves as individually. I believe that this is a long-term solution. It's not something designed tomorrow to change things. But what I'm saying is that if we can start the process of young people to feel good about themselves. Some young people, they don't get that at home. Some young people, from a parenting standpoint, they don't have the best of parents. So we've got to give them something as an auxiliary that they'll say, hey, you know what? I didn't know this, but I feel better about myself in learning this, and it's only good for everyone. So my thing was just to do an open invitation. You're more than welcome to come. This is not the last one. Like I said, the next date will be November 19th, which I'll bring the next flyer, which we're showing hidden colors too. And my suggestion is to Google this. This is probably one of the best historical series you can see, and it's really on the pulse. And it doesn't matter if you're 7 years old or 70 years old, you can understand and you can appreciate where they're coming from. And it's not just about what has happened in U.S. history, right? We're talking about world culture here. We're talking about Japan here. We're talking about South America here. We're talking about Africa here. We're talking about the Middle East here. We're talking about all points of learning that, hey, you know what? There's something to what has happened in the past here, and we can get back to that as far as being achievers versus underachievers. And as I said earlier, this is about counteracting street culture, because the bottom line is this: I would prefer $30,000 in taxpayer money going elsewhere than incarceration. Thank you for your time. Assalamu alaikum.
Like Islam, my brother. Thank you very much. Are there any other citizens to be heard?
Good morning, council members. Mr. President, Ed Kissel, 2815 Sigsbee, representing the Sons of Lake Erie with over 3,000 members. We'd like to remind council that on Tuesday, November 11th at 1 o'clock in the chambers is the public hearing on the appeal of the walkway that was put in down at the GAF site. So we encourage all of you, if you can, to attend the meeting. I left a note in your boxes for that as a reminder, and I would hope to see you there. It would be a very interesting presentation, and we look forward to discussing it with the Zoning Hearing Board. So I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Good morning, Council. Gary Horton, 2046 East 19th Street. First of all, I greet you in the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I stand before you this morning as an advocate of Save the Bridge. Nonetheless, I'm a bigger advocate for jobs for local people. Whatever decision that you make on the bridge, I would hope that you start advocating publicly a policy for local employment. The people who elected you and the people who you are sworn to represent deserve nothing less than that. No matter what public or private job takes place in this community, it does so with the support of you, with your voice, public or private. I would encourage you to ask for a voluntary reporting of the number of local people by zip code, constituents who elected you, who you're sworn to represent, receive jobs on Gannon's project, Erie Insurance's project, UPMC project, Mercyhurst project, the proposed hotel. If Mario Bagnoni were here, I think he wouldn't do anything less than that. Advocate for it. If you don't advocate for it, who will? By zip code, the people who elected you and who you are sworn to represent. Next time John Haran comes here to give you a check for vehicles and others to support public safety, that you ask him, how is he so successful at providing hope and opportunity for your constituents, people who elect you and people who you are sworn to represent? He requires contractors to employ the people or give the people who live in public housing an opportunity to work on those projects. He trains them. Once upon a time, housing projects or developments were places where no one wanted to live for safety. I would dare say today that they're the safest place in our city to live today. You should ask him, why is he so successful? And then you should challenge or encourage the other authorities who operate with your approval and support to bring development and jobs to our community, to provide similar opportunities of hope for people who elect you and who you are sworn to represent. So the last thing I would want to say is, look at your own Section 3 report, which is a tool to provide opportunity for people who elect you and people who you're sworn to represent. And you'll see zeros. How can the people in the neighborhoods have any hope if you don't provide them opportunity through the policy opportunities that you have? Thank you. God bless you, and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horton.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Darrell Fisher. I live at 611 West 16th Street in Erie. Used to be called Little Italy. Some revitalization going on up there. That's not what I came here about, though. I'm very active politically, and I'm pretty sure I've had something to do with each and every one of you guys' campaigns up there, because I believe in you. At least I want to. Sometimes I have my doubts. I spent probably at least 100 hours out there, door to door this year, for the governor's campaign and several other campaigns that really aren't even in my district, but I feel that the candidates that were running needed my help. Sadly, most of them lost, but the governor won. Yay. The reason I'm here today, I was very compelled to come down here with a different attitude, but after thinking, I know that I get in a lot of trouble when I come down here and yell at people, point fingers, and place blame. Going door to door, there were many, many people that are just disappointed so badly with government that I'd say roughly, I have the numbers not with me, but on paper, roughly 20% of active voters, they're just not interested in voting anymore. They have no interest in supporting candidates because they feel that the constituents aren't paid attention to. Their needs aren't addressed. The opportunities for education for their children, it's not just young people, it's not middle-aged people, it's not, I have 6 grandchildren, 3 children. The older generation, the root of what was once Little Italy, mostly are gone, but those that have stayed around, there's so many, the majority of them people are, I don't want to vote anymore. Don't bother me. Don't come to my door to promote these candidates and their causes because they don't listen to us anymore. I'm not interested in voting anymore. There's an elderly lady who has a grandson who is addicted to heroin. He's in a methadone program. He has no insurance. He's trying to get a job. He's trying to get out of that lifestyle, but there's just no help. There's no opportunities for education for people. Going door to door in my district, in the 7th district of the 3rd Ward, which starts at the west side of Cherry, and it goes out just the other side of Green Garden. But there's a little section between 18th and 6th and 14th from Cherry to Raspberry. And it's like, I've been to New York City and I've been in the slums, and that's where I thought I was when I went to those doors. I mean, their belongings are more outside around their house than they are in their house. The garbage. And what was really sad is I met people that I grew up with and I went to school with, and they're now drug addicts or prostitutes or pimps or drug lords, gang members. And they talk to me because they remember me. I say, hey, I grew up with you. Do you remember, man? We were cool back in the day, And they says, I don't have a record, but I'm not going to vote, man. That's for other people because some people don't give a crap about us. They're not providing us an avenue to better ourselves. And I'm here today to voice their opinions. Now, it doesn't matter, what I think, but I think it's important that you people up there understand and know that there's so much disparity out there. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. I've got half of an education. I started college, I had to get a job because I couldn't afford to support a family. I guess I didn't plan well, but I'm doing all right. I have a mortgage, I have a house, the bank owns it, so what? But I remember when I was a young man, my house burnt down, my father didn't have insurance. I remember standing in a soup line. I remember wearing my brother's clothes and my brother's shoes and being made fun of. I remember that. I know what that feels like. I don't know if any of you up there knows what that feels like, but I remember it. And I vowed that my children wouldn't have to go through that. And I feel that we're not doing enough. You're not doing enough. I don't have the answers, but you people have the education, you have the resources. I have this, all these committees and different authorities that you're all appointed to. You people have the resources to change things. And I'm here to ask you to do a little bit more. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good morning, City Council and Administration. I'm here wanted to say a few words on the McBride.
Your name and address, please.
John Schubert. I live on East Avenue, 2413. Been there 50 years. Prior to that, first came near here, my uncle, we lived on 21st Street with Dr. Felix Schubert, he was your first city and county health director in the city here. And prior to that, lived on Buffalo Road by Meadowbrook and up on Bird Drive. So I'm quite familiar with the city on the east side particularly. I just wanted to remind you that, we just recently are going to be paying 28 cents more per gallon for gasoline. And this is supposed to have helped bridges and what have you. We're talking about bridges. We're talking like over in Millfair Road, they're talking about putting a bridge up, 500 cars a day. The McBride Viaduct, again, was 4,000 cars a day with the bayfront. It was going over that bridge. It has been really a traumatic situation for the East Siders. If you go out and you actually talk to the East Siders, and I mean literally talk to them, when the subject comes up about the bridge, they are disgusted. When you ask about, things in general, they say, just like the gentleman had just said, why vote anymore? Because the people don't listen to us. The people that are in power, that is. We had, just a quick example, the Bayfront Motel. We have Scott, we have Kennedy. They're going to be a tax base because we had $25 million coming into us at the Bayfront. We're going to spend another $20 to $30 million in that really isn't there. And how many conventions do we really pick up? Go down, look at statistics and that. We spend a lot of money into things, the motels. We put $80 million into the airports. We put into the EMTA. We're putting $30 million, the Warner Theater, and so on and so on. We're talking to rehabilitate that bridge was less than $10 million. The inflated figures that the L.R. Kimball, they projected 100 years, which was obscene. We have never, in my day, have I ever seen a study go out 100 years. When they built this city hall, did they project it was going to be 100 years down the road? It's going to cost so much, this and that, and what have you. But the inconvenience of the people on the east side, like I said, if you went out and you literally talked to them, they're disgusted. Just like he said, people don't care, the people in power. We put things in like the bump outs. We put the street lighting in. People didn't want it. Most of the people didn't want the Bayfront. We changed the bus routes and that. Why don't we listen to what the people want and do what they want? It's just a thing that we're doing things our own way and not what you were elected to do. It's the next mayor. And remember, there was 12,000 people signed a petition for that viaduct to be either rebuilt or a brand new one put in. But it went to deaf ears. There's people, we've had a number of meetings. I was on that CAC committee. They didn't listen to us. The L.R. Kimball and that, a lot of the things that they were supposed to put and study, they didn't. They come in for a few hours a day here and there to study something that we see every day ourselves and that. But it's just sad. Again, I brought it up to a number of you that when Franklin Avenue Bridge goes down, what do we have? We have nothing. It's the Bayfront, a lot of your elderly, and believe me, a lot of your people, parents and what have you, they are petrified to drive the Bayfront. Bayfront is also being tore up in the sense you drive from 12th Street up to McClellan Avenue, it's getting tore up with the extra traffic and that. This morning and several days this week, I intentionally went down by the McBride Viaduct. The school kids are walking over that. It's the safest way for the children walking over there rather than going over towards the Bayfront. It seems they say, well, it's only 600 feet. Well, again, why don't we just shut every other street down in the city? Because they're only 600 feet apart. It's getting to the point where, again, safety, fire, you can get a fire truck over that bridge quicker, police calls. With the number of violent situations that we have happening in the city and that, if a policeman is in trouble, how much longer does it take him to go down the bayfront than to go directly across the bridge? And like I said, gas-wise and what have you, it's cost the people of the east side an extra lot of money, in the sense it really went into the millions of dollars if you took and using conservative figures in it. But the thing of it is, apparently these people that have done some of the things in the city, you know, like the bump outs and the street lighting that was inefficient and that, I would consider whoever your next mayor is, and remember, those 12,000 people that voted, signed petitions, are also voters. They're not going to forget that the east side is actually kind of been left to the wayside, you know. So I'm really impressed with people like the Scotts and Kennedys. Fortunately, they're putting in a tax base in that. But we're doing too many projects that we think are good, and we're not listening to the people. And the people are the ones that have elected the officials. Not only your council, but your mayors and what have you in that. And like I said, the east side, you could take a bowling ball, roll it down East Avenue now. When they put the interstates in back in the 50s, and some of you are much too young to remember that, all your motels and businesses along in this area, Route 5 and Route 20, they closed up.
Hey, John,
You know.
time's up.
So I would appreciate if you'd reconsider, and the final thing is, if there's a way of appealing this thing, appeal it, because they're trying to cram it down our throats. At the last minute, they were supposed to have meetings with the CAC meeting.
We got your
committee,
message,
and
John.
they didn't.
Thank you, my friend. Are there any other citizens to be heard?
Good morning. Jay Brenneman, 2416 East 40th. I also have the honor of serving on Erie County Council representing most of the 5th Ward. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here because of Veterans Day coming up next week. Myself as a veteran, Councilman Kwiatkowski, and then also a colleague of mine, Councilman Horton, being a veteran as well. I've been working on an initiative to look at how we're serving our veterans, what that message looks like, and also to recognize the economic impact that they have in our communities. All too often, Veterans Day is an opportunity for people to memorialize our veterans, you know, to talk about the sacrifices and to provide handouts. Well, I'm of the mind that our veterans are still alive and kicking and have something to offer. And I think history has shown that, particularly after World War II, when our veterans came back and essentially even here, it created a massive boom in the economics and housing. So moving forward, when you work with veterans, when you talk to veterans, recognize that they're still alive. They don't need handouts. What they need is an opportunity to continue their service in their communities. Erie County has over 23,000 veterans. Most of them reside here in the city. But we could be looking at more. After 13 years of war, the military is cutting back its forces. They're expecting up to 100,000 military members to be discharged within this decade. It's 100,000. My goal is to give the Erie citizens who join the military a reason to come back, and also for those 100,000, granted it's a big number, to give some of them a reason to make Erie their home. When they come back, they have a lot of the soft skills that our businesses are desperate for. You hear from the chamber, you hear from a lot of companies that they're desperate for a workforce that has certain soft skills. Well, these military members have that. Not only that, but just like myself, they could buy a house using the VA guaranteed home loan in the city of Erie. there's neighborhoods that need it desperately, Little Italy, Bayfront East Side, and around the Snoops area as well. So my goal is to make the Erie region a destination, and I would welcome your body the Erie City Council to join me in that. We have, not only would they come back and become homeowners, but also we have many great colleges. They can use the GI Bill to get their education, and that means an even more educated workforce as they come back. I think that, and I'll just make this short, I think that, and you'll be hearing more about this, for our veterans, to make Erie the destination for them, we have to really look at what we're doing for our veterans. What's that message? How are we welcoming them? And what kind of opportunities are we providing for them? We have to work with our employers to recognize that there's tax incentives to hire veterans, that there are ways that they can reach out and understand veterans as they're coming back, how to decipher the military code, the military resumes. And also, when just imagine some military members relocating to some of these neighborhoods, joining the neighborhood watches, becoming members of the local Legion or VFW. And with that, imagine how much safer people would feel if they've got a street with 5, 10, whatever veterans living there. So in the coming days and coming weeks, you'll hear more about it. I welcome the opportunity to speak with any of you about how you could be partners with this. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak. Have a great day.
Councilman.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Brenneman, thank you for your service and welcome home.
Are there any other citizens to be heard? Are there any other citizens to be heard? Are there any other citizens to be heard? Hearing none. Ms. Roby.
Okay, ordinances for first reading. Council file number 15,900. An ordinance closing and vacating a portion of a public alleyway from East 24th Street between French and Holland Streets with reservation of existing utility rights of way. Motion by Mr. Brennan, seconded by Mr. Mursky, that council file number 15,900, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by the City Council. Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Rancunzo, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance number 15,900 by yeas 7, nays 0.
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilman Jones.
I'd like to move the balance of the agenda this morning.
Moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been second. Any separations?
Mr. President, we separate number 1 and number 2 under new business.
Separating number 1, number 2. All right, Rose.
Okay, voting on moving the balance of the agenda. Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Rancunzo, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon. Resolution number 1, sponsored by Mrs. Rancunzo and seconded by Mr. Witherspoon. Whereas the City of Erie is a member of the Erie Area Council of Governments, EACOG, and whereas EACOG has proposed to amend its bylaws in order for the bylaws to reflect the method of withdrawal of the membership as follows. Article 4, membership, D, withdrawal. Erie Area COG members shall have the right to withdraw from the Erie Area COG at the end of any calendar year by giving 12 months prior written notice to the Erie Area COG Chair and the Administrator. This notice shall be in the form of an ordinance approved by the governing body of the organization. Withdrawal will be in no way serve to void or lessen any previous financial obligation incurred as a member of the Erie Area COG. Whereas the amended bylaws will be voted upon for approval at the EA COG's General Assembly meeting of November 5th, 2014, and whereas the City Council of the City of Erie has reviewed and proposed amendment to the bylaws dated November 5th, 2014, and finds it to be in good order, and it is hereby resolved by the City Council of the City of Erie, Erie County, Pennsylvania, that the proposed amendment to the bylaws dated November 5th, 2014 is approved by the City Council of the City of Erie.
They were dead.
Mr. Brennan?
Discussion.
To comment. Mr. President, I just wanted to address this as the delegate to the COG. We are meeting today. This issue has come to the fore because the bylaws were rewritten about 3 or 4 years ago, and there was no provision to discuss how a government entity might withdraw from the COG. In the last several years, we've been expanding membership and included new governments in the COG, but in the event that someone wants to leave the COG, we didn't address that in our bylaws. So this puts a process in place for how a government might leave the COG, and also safeguards the requirement, the COG, to continue getting the dues from the government and giving a year's notice. So this is kind of just putting a policy in place for the COG. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Rancunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kotowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon. City Council Resolution Number 2, sponsored by Mr. Mursky and seconded by Mr. Brennan. Resolved by the Council of the City of Erie that the proper city officials execute the Federal Aid Bridge Project Reimbursement Supplement Agreement between the City of Erie and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for the study, preliminary engineering of the City of Erie McBride Viaduct East Avenue Bridge. Estimated cost for the study is $700,042.21. The total amount of the reimbursement is $700,022.21. Commonwealth accrued costs are estimated to be $20,000. Cost sharing federal 100%, state 0%, municipality 0%. Estimated cost for preliminary engineering is $525,000. The total amount of the reimbursement is $523,000. Commonwealth incurred costs are estimated to be $2,000. Cost sharing federal 80%, $418,400. State 15%, $78,450. Municipality 5%, $26,150. The cost in Exhibit AAA are increased from $722,021 to $1,218,871. Discussion?
Mr. President, if I could start the discussion. I just thought it would be important for us to make comment about this item since we have had it tabled in the past and had some change. We did have the opportunity to review and discuss the study fully. Council had a study session last week with the city engineer, John Tushak, and Bill Pettit from PennDOT, and we had the opportunity finally to actually sit with the study and go through it and ask questions and understand fully the preferred alternative and what that means to the viaduct and to the neighborhood over there. A couple of the things that we were really questioning about, because we've been asked by citizens, was the opportunity for the viaduct to remain open for pedestrians and bicyclists. I think that we've had that quite a few times at council, and we did discuss that in detail. The reason why that was a difficulty and was not recommended in the preferred alternative was because of the costs involved with maintaining the bridge as a pedestrian and bicycle way, that they thought that there was really no monies available in order to shore up what was necessary on the bridge to make it safe for the long run. And then also, if there was an entity that would take over that role, who would have the liability or the insurance and things like that to make, in case something happened on the bridge. So we did try to flesh that out and see if that was an opportunity, because I think all of us are afraid of how a pedestrian gets now from south of the viaduct down north, if they go to East High or whatnot. They did talk to us a lot about pedestrian walkways and sidewalks that will be built in connection with the Buffalo Road interchange off the Bayfront, and we did also ask the questions about how the businesses were impacted that are around that area, and they did discuss quite deeply how, at least Bill Pettit from PennDOT talked about how much they had spent talking with the folks that own a trucking business there, the guy that owns the metal recycling over there, and how they can redirect traffic and help them to be able to actually enhance their access to their facilities. So, our hesitation, I think, at least mine, nobody likes the idea of taking the bridge down, but at least we got a little more detail on what is the alternative and how it's going to go forward. One of the things I think that we thought was very important, and I'm not sure if it went on deaf ears or not, was the notion that the pedestrian accommodations, such as the sidewalk on East 12th Street and the changes there with the Bayfront, need to go in place before they take the bridge down. As everyone's saying, pedestrians are still walking on the McBride Viaduct. So in terms of planning, if the McBride Viaduct is demolished before the pedestrian sidewalks are put in, we're going to be in trouble. So I think that was something that's really important to council. But anyway, that's just kind of an overview of what we've been doing and getting a little more understanding of the project and getting our constituents' concerns to the table so that we can have answers to them and have their consideration in the project going forward. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Mercer.
Just a couple comments. I think there's a misconception out there that this body did not fight for the bridge. I work with all of you. We fought for the bridge. We fought with you. We fought for you for the bridge. Everyone on this body, Councilman Winarski, Councilman Brennan, and I were on the committee, the CAC committee, with community members. We all fought for the bridge. It didn't turn out the way that we wanted, but that part of the process is over. That time has passed. Where we are now is we have an opportunity here to invest millions of dollars in the east side, open access again to Buffalo Road, and allow car access again from East Avenue north, and then across the Buffalo Road Bridge, and then across down to the Lower East Side. What this does is it increases pedestrian access because they're going to allow, they're going to build a walkway from McKinley Avenue over to Buffalo Road so that people using Walmart and those stores over in that area are able to cross now the Bayfront Parkway and get to points east. Also, it's going to restore convenience because you're going to be able to use East Avenue again as an access point to get from Southeast Erie to the Lower East Side and vice versa. And I heard a couple times people saying we're rushing this, we're hurrying this up. This has been in discussion for 6 years. The bridge has been closed for 4 years, and we've delayed this vote 2 times to get more information. We've been very deliberate and we've taken our time in studying this and making sure that we're making the right decision. For me personally, it's a matter of fiscal responsibility. I would love to have a bridge. The city at this point cannot afford to foot the whole bill itself. We can't afford that. PennDOT is going to pay the majority, the lion's share of this portion with the federal and state funds. 95% of the cost will be a burden of the state and federal government. We only have to pay 5%. For me, this is a fiscally responsible decision that restores access, that restores convenience, and it improves pedestrian access, and that East Side and Buffalo Road corridor opens again. So that's why I support this.
Thank you, Councilman Mercer. Any other discussion? Councilman Brennan?
As Mr. Mirsky noted, I was also a member of the committee. It was really, having grown up in that area around East High School, my parents still live there, it was kind of a personal thing at first, but really as a member of council and as a citizen, I was trying to look for the best needs of the city. So it was a very, very important thing for me to look at this and to really get a full opportunity to look at the report, to ask questions of the engineers involved, to ask questions of PennDOT. It was all, very, very important to me to get that settled in my brain, so it all made sense, and it does make sense. And again, we have to look at the overall needs of the area, and to me right now the idea is to take this preferred alternative and make it the best solution it can be. There's still a lot of work to do to put that solution together. There's a lot of engineering to do. So my thought now is just to try to keep tabs on what's going on with the preliminary engineering, and try to make that project something that really further connect the neighborhoods, provide safety for students crossing the street, provide safety for bicycles. All that kind of thing is very, very important for us right now at this time. And also, I guess at first the idea of connecting neighborhoods is something that's important, still needs to be discussed, and so we just need to make this solution, again, the best it could be. And then lastly, the comment from the speaker earlier about the request for bidding options on the bridge, it should be kind of considered as they go forward with the engineering, so that maybe there is alternates in case the costs do overrun. It's kind of a typical thing to do anyways. For any project, you want to make sure and have some alternatives, because you never know how price is going to turn out. We try to get the cost estimates the best they can be, but you never know what's going to happen when bidding actually occurs. So I do think that those should be considered, those options that were put forward, and as we go forward with the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Tough vote today. We knew from the beginning that the majority of us for repairing or replacing that bridge. It's been 4 years, like Mr. Mirsky said. For as much as I would like to fight longer for even the 12,000 signatures that were out there, we're going on. Unfortunately, now we don't have the votes. We could fight longer, that we could prolong this. We could move ahead, invest, and improve what we have going on down there now. Unfortunately, this vote is not going to go through to try restoring that bridge or replacing it. So, as a council, we got to move forward and get this done. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilman.
Yes. In my journeys around town, it's often been referred that there's only 2 or 3 people that are really complaining, but that's far from the truth. If yesterday's election showed us anything, it's the fact that people have given up on government, they've given up on us. They see no relevance in complaining anymore. The term "a done deal" is used often, and times it's somewhat true. When we built East High School in that part of town, we were encouraged to do it because it was the right thing to do for that part of town. And for a short time, it did increase the viability of East Avenue, and it did increase the pride in that neighborhood. Now we flash forward, and I have to wonder why way back when I hate to go back in history, but back when they talked about the interchange many years ago, some tells me the reason why they didn't build that interchange was not only cost, but the fact that we had the McBride Viaduct there. So why weren't we diligent enough to do our homework back then? I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I can look at Franklin Avenue right now, the bridge, and say, if we don't start doing stuff with that bridge, we may be having a problem there. And I'm no engineer. But it just frustrates the public that when we had a committee of people, and I haven't seen anybody on that committee that told me they really had a voice in the decision. And I asked the question, who made the decision? I wasn't a member of council, and had I been there, I would have asked that question. But the public does feel out of the loop. That's a problem. And we keep hearing about it's only 600 feet or 600 yards. That's true at the apex. But it's a giant triangle, and if you live on the east side, you have to live there to know why sometimes it's more important to take the East Avenue I mean the McBride Viaduct Bridge rather than the interchange. You know, you go to Pittsburgh and you see the 7th Street Bridge, the 9th Street Bridge, Roberto Clemente Bridge, and they tell you, well, that's Pittsburgh. Well, we're Erie. We're not Harbor Creek. Yet they're building, you know, bridges out in Harbor Creek, building bridges out in Millfair. And if you go around State College, and I drive around there a lot of times when there's no football games, they build a whole network of roads that go nowhere except get people out of the football stadium, get them there. So I guess it comes down to we just didn't have the political clout, and I'm a little disappointed that either the administration or somebody didn't get together with our legislators and tell them what the public on the east side wanted. Yes, they're quiet now. They've gone away because they see the battle is over. And some actually believe the battle is still alive, but that's long gone. So I'm in complete disgust of the method it was done, and that's my comment. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Rose?
Okay, voting on resolution number 2, Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Rancunso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski.
No.
Mr. Mirsky, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon. This resolution is adopted by council, 6 ayes, 1 nay. That will take us to committee reports, Mr. President.
Hey, Dr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few things to report. There we go. Let me get my notes out here. Just a couple things. I set up a meeting with Chief Tony Pohl to discuss, you know, some of the issues with the fire department and look at preliminary costs and purchases for next year's budget, and that'll be coming up in the next week. The convention center had their hotel groundbreaking. I was unable to make it as I was in school, but work began on that construction project with the convention center, investing over $60 million on the bayfront there. I attended a couple events in the community. Neighborhood Watch Council. I met with the Neighborhood Watch Council at their monthly meeting. We talked about, again, the curfew, and we talked about a loitering ordinance. I did report to them that there is a loitering ordinance on the books here in the city, and it's a matter of enforcement, and it's a matter of prioritizing calls. If we have a more serious situation, that takes precedence clearly over a loitering call. So we did discuss those issues with them, and we tried to come up with some solutions that are community-oriented as opposed to police-oriented. And we, as Jessica said, we had a study session with Bill Pettit from PennDOT regarding the McBride Viaduct. It was very informative. We got a lot of information, and it clarified a lot of questions that people had. And finally, just 3 events that I attended that I wanted to recognize. First, I wanted to recognize the Wolves Club of Erie for their Taste of Italy event. I was a recipient of the Wolves Club Scholarship when I was graduating from high school, and it helped pay for my college. The Wolves Club is a great organization that gives thousands of dollars to deserving students to go to school in Erie County. So I want to thank them for hosting that Taste of Italy at the St. Paul's Center. I also attended the Polonaise Ball, and it's 50th anniversary of the Polonaise Ball. It's a great tradition for the people of Polish descent and Eastern European descent, and Councilman Winarski was there with me, and it was a good time was had by all there. And finally, I just wanted to recognize the Polish Falcons on their Nest 610 on East 3rd Street on their 100th anniversary. 100 years on the east side and still going strong. Best wishes to them, and congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Dave Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I attended a St. Casper's Church had their 100th anniversary celebration. I was a member of the church as a child, and my parents, of course, have been there in their entire lives. I'm also a proud graduate of the school. But I do want to thank the parish for really holding that community together and keep making it a better place. I attended the celebration this past Saturday and presented the council commendation to Reverend James O'Hara. So very, very nice event, and it was very well attended. I think there was about 250 people there. Also, I was asked to join the advisory committee for the City of Erie comprehensive plan that's coming up. The committee met last Wednesday to discuss the request for proposal for consultants on the project. Last year, a background analysis was already done in preparation for this comprehensive plan. It's all the groundwork required for the plan. But this will be our first comprehensive plan in the city, so it's very important. The components of this plan are future land plan, land use plan, housing, transportation, community facilities and utilities such as water resources, implementation, compatibility with local land uses, zoning, and future land, protection of natural historic resources, all very important items, especially in our city. The City of Erie Comp Plan will be coordinated with the current Destination Erie Plan work that's been going on for a couple of years now, but it will specifically address the issues and opportunities in the City of Erie. Upcoming, the Veterans Day parade and ceremony is this Saturday, November 8th. The parade starts at 9:30 and the ceremony begins at 11 a.m. The parade begins at 26th and State and marches south on State Street, ending at the Veterans Erie VA Medical Center. The ceremony will be held at the Naval Reserve Center, located in the back of the VA Medical Center, and of course the community is all invited to attend. Lastly, I just wanted to remind, I talked to people about this before, but we have a facade improvement workshop coming up next Thursday. It's November 13th from 8 till noon. It's at the UPMC Community Room at Boston Store Place. It's a free workshop for property owners, tenants, who need facade improvements or to enhance their buildings. There'll be presentations on design, restoration, repair, historical tax credits, and funding. We probably have about 25 to 30 people signed up already, so if you know anyone that would benefit, please have them sign up and they can contact me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Winarski. Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few notes this morning. Did attend the EMTA meeting as well as they called it a fund package presentation. Our Governor Corbett was in town and allocated $30 million for the phase 2 of the project down there on Parade Street. That makes grand total project $40 million. According to Mr. Tan, if everything goes as scheduled, the complete project should be done by September of 2017. Paving season is just about completed, other than if anybody traveled State Street this morning. The Water Authority had to give us a new stretch there from where the street did collapse. But on the city end of it, it's just about completed. I just want to give our guys, our pavers and crews, a great job because they compete and compared to the contractors we have out there. You couldn't tell whether it was a city job or the contractor, so we've really stepped up our game and do a great job with the paving, and we save the city money by doing it ourselves. So, Mr. Zisk, thank you and keep up the good work. What else? One other thing, Mr. Mirsky mentioned, he took my fight away for the proclamation. City Council gave a proclamation to the Polish Net 610 on their 100-year anniversary. It was a great evening. Got to speak. My grandmother, Grandma Borkowski, was the first cook there 100 years ago. But pretty cool. My parents had their wedding anniversary there, and we had a few parties there ourselves. But congratulations to the officers and members of the 3rd Street Falcons. Other than that, thank you.
Mr. Mirsky, was you invited to some of his parties?
I was too young then.
Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President, but no report this morning.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Kaz.
Mr. Jones put me on the spot. That's too quick.
Always be ready.
There you go.
Good report, Kaz.
It'll be a brief report. Everybody will be happy about that. I attended the aggregate board meeting this week. Unfortunately, I had to leave a little early, but I'm sure the controller will bring us up to date. It was a very productive meeting concerning the pension plan, and it concerned our custodial agreements and new investors that we're planning on looking in, new money managers, and it'll have an effect on the city's water reserve plan also. And so they're doing a good job. They're very diligent, and I'll leave it to the controller, who doing a pretty good job. She can fill you in. And just a reminder of Veterans Day on Tuesday. It's a very solemn moment for those of us who served this country. I want to thank Fred. Fred he and I talk about it all the time, the old days, back when we were young, thin, and how do they say, Fred? We were young once? Yeah. But take time this week to thank a veteran on Tuesday. If you can attend the parade or services at the VA, that's great. When you see a veteran, the nicest thing you can say to them is either welcome home or thank you for your service, and they'll appreciate that. A lot of them are suffering from many traumas and things they saw during their service. And it just, it's a great day, and try to thank a veteran, and a member of the day is much more than just a holiday. It's something special for us, and thank you very much. Fred, welcome home.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mr. President. Following our meeting today, we'll have our monthly Finance Committee meeting. At that meeting, we're going to have Mr. Paul Wojtek here from the Erie Waterworks, and we'll finalize our discussions about the billing change for the garbage and sewer combined billing and the water separate billing. So we'll be able to ask any questions, final information that we may need to share with our constituents regarding that change. The change will really not affect 90% of the customers, because 90% of the customers pay their bills. So if you pay your bill, the only difference will be that your bills will be aligned differently. Instead of receiving one bill that has your water and sewer charges and a separate one with your garbage charges, instead you will have a water bill and then a separate bill with your sewer and garbage charges. So the lion's share of our customers won't be affected. They'll just see their checks differently balanced. It'll come to the same net amount, but it'll be one check will be a little different than it was last quarter. So we look forward to that, and we hope that that will help obviously inspire those who are not paying that percentage, who does not pay their refuse bill, to get caught up either by paying up or getting into a payment plan, which is available for those customers who have some delinquency and need to have some opportunity to take time to pay it. We understand that happens, and we do have that opportunity for the payment plans. So we'll iron things out with that today. Also, just wanted to follow up on what Councilman Kwiatkowski said. The Aggregate Pension Board has been working on some manager searches and some custodian searches to look for the best ways to both invest and manage the funds that are in our pension. Also, the Water Reserve Investment Committee will be meeting to discuss that as well. That money, as you know, is used for capital expenses of the city, and we try to make sure that we maximize the investment so that we have a good return on that. We will be meeting next week to finalize our decisions regarding the RFPs and the different managers that were put in a proposal, and as well as the custodian. That meeting will be next Tuesday, and in follow-up to our one of our speakers today, Mr. Jim Clem, who serves as a consultant archivist for the city council, will be helping me by attending those meetings and bringing back the information, so that as his service also includes his membership on the Water Reserve Investment Committee, then he will be informed and be using his time with us to help us to make a good decision as a Water Reserve Investment Committee as well. The other item, just to put on the radar screen, I think in terms of rental license inspection program, council hasn't really had any meetings. Usually we had every couple of years a meeting to talk about the set provision that was in the ordinance. But in light of changes, I think that, we've seen in the media some changes with some court rulings and whatnot, that we ought to put that on our radar screen to get up to date with city administration on what is happening, what are the plans going forward for that program. So I just offer that for the good of the order. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
I'll
Controller?
be brief, because they pretty much filled you in, but the investment committee did meet on Halloween, October 31st, and they had their interviews for the small cap and mid cap growth funds, and also our custodians. So we're still in the process of reviewing the information, and we're going to get all our facts together and bring that recommendation to the aggregate board on November 11th. If anybody wants any additional information, it is in my office, and you can contact me. And the interviews were videoed, so if anybody is interested in seeing those videos, again, you can contact myself in the office. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Administration.
Following the lead of being brief, we did have a safe Halloween, and that's one of the things we really take seriously with our kids on the street and police and everything else. We're proud of that. We are preparing for winter. We know it's coming. Streets Garage, everybody's getting ready for that. We advise people to watch for the parking signs. There will be alternate parking as the season goes. And finally, if you can, pick up your leaves, put them in the bags. We'll pick them up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's no more other business. This meeting's adjourned.
The council adjourns at 10:29. Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Brennan, Mrs. Rancuso, Mr. Jones, Mr. Wachowski, Mr. Witherspoon.
Will it still show on there, or is it?
Bring my gloves.